I'm missing three of you to answer. Dalila, Camila, are you answering the poll? Just two. Just missing one. Who has an answer? Oh, perfect. Now we are 100%. Excellent. So these are the results, guys. Let's review them. Does everybody's watching the results?
Yes.
Oh, perfect. So what is accounting? The process of evaluating financial health. Somebody gave that option. Yes and no. The accounting per se, it's just registering financial transactions. But obviously accountants are trained to evaluate financial health of the firm. It's part of the business, but it's not the primary objective. So the correct answer is the process of recording financial transactions that we saw yesterday. Remember the ledger? That's your database, the accounting database. So what is the nature of accounts? It specifies increasing balance of the account, either debit or credit. Excellent. Everybody got 100%. That's the correct answer. Oh, in here we start with the problems. Yeah, very nice. What is the nature of accounts for income account? Who believes it has it right? Who can answer that it's pretty sure 100% it is right?
Credit.
Excellent. Yesterday you answered that, right?
Yes.
Good memory. Excellent, Arturo. So what guys, the guys who answered debit before passing to the next one, what's happening? Give me your process of understanding and reasoning. Guys, there are no correct, incorrect answers in your life. Just support your answers with facts and data. Okay, if you don't remember, it's okay. But please try to give me your logical or reasoning process so I can help you improve it. Okay?
On which question?
Who got it wrong? There are 4 people who got it wrong the third question. It's okay, guys. No worry. The thing is that I can help you.
I got it wrong, but actually this time I know it, but I just the one that wasn't because it was charging. I was the last person who did it.
Okay.
Because my internet is crazy. But
do you feel fine of being a credit, or do we need to reinforce that part? Remember, we should learn the table from yesterday about the nature of accounts. So you remember assets increase with debit, liabilities increase with credit. Income as that income, somebody has property rights or has equity rights to that income. It should be a credit balance because at the end I owe that income to whom? To your investor. That's why it should be a credit nature. Okay.
Even if you were the investor yourself, you owe yourself basically.
Yes, but you owe yourself in another entity.
So it is still a credit.
It is still a credit. In your entity, it is a credit. Maybe if you see your accountancy from your investing or my person as a self, I should have an asset as an investment because I did an investment in a company and it's an asset. And I probably credited my bank account because the funds went out from my bank account to invest in that company, okay? Perfect. So what is the nature of account for? Oh, that was a hard one. That was a trick question. Who can answer it? Who knows? Who can tell me which that is sure it is correct?
Me, it is, I don't remember what credit, because it is equity.
It is a trick question because actually it could be both. Do you remember that the profit or loss? Yes, the focus for the business is to have a profit, and the profit has a credit nature because that means that the sales or your income, it's bigger than your expenses and costs. So if the income is negative with a credit nature, your profit or loss should be negative and because you owe that to the investor. But what if the business losses? You will find a profit and loss in positive sign. But at the end, it is correct, Arturo. Your reasoning, it's correct. Okay, perfect. So I missed the last. The fifth problem is I bought property, land, and equipment that should be. Ooh, somebody answer liability. It is an asset, guys. Remember your resources are assets. A laptop, it's not a liability. Who do you owe that laptop? Probably the vendor. That could be a liability, but you don't know the laptop. So very good, guys. I see a lot of improvement compared to day one. And we have a next poll from exercises we saw yesterday. So let's do the next poll. Just wait a second. Ready, guys? Do you see it? Good luck.
Yes.
This is a little bit harder.
Wait, I don't know, teacher. I was already on like 4, and it just went back up, and everything is gone.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know. I don't know. Can you remember your answers? I don't know what happened first time with that issue. You still have time. Please help me answer it again. Sorry. Perfect. Perfect, guys. We're done. Let's end the poll and share you the results. Perfect. Oh, we can see a lot of mix. Okay, let's see. I created a new company and finally got my bank account today. Today I did a deposit into my account with the first batch of cash funds in order to provide working capital to it. So I deposited funds, cash funds. We should classify cash funds as in the business, as in what element of the balance sheet? Can anybody tell me?
Equity.
Okay, I'm yes,
Cash
equity, it's the benefit you got from depositing those funds, but yeah, the cash funds are a bank balance. Bank balance is a resource, it is an asset. Okay. Ahora, sorry, an asset has an nature of, who can tell me?
Debit.
Debit. Okay, 50% of you got that right. Got that right. The credit account would be to credit a bank account. The meaning is that the funds went out from the company. I paid something. We're speaking about receiving funds. Okay, for the ones who got the 36% wrong, and the debit cash and credit liability, remember that yes, it could be possibly recognized as a liability because you owe somebody, but in this specific case, I said that I created the company and it's my money to create the company. Does anybody knows how to create a company? What is the process to create a company? And in all the parts of the world, those are very standard procedures. Can anybody tell me?
Well, here, I mean, maybe the names will change, but you have to write it. You have to register it on the.
Exactly.
I think here it's called the NSE, and then the. IMSA.
You have
If
to
you're gonna
incorporate your business, okay? And
Yeah.
in order to incorporate it, the least one of the information required is who's gonna be your investors, your stock, your equity, okay? That's the support for that movement. All the registers from accounting have a support. It's just for your cultural knowledge. You obviously won't do that, so but you have in mind that all of that your accountants register must have a support. Okay. First day of operations, and I did a credit sale for $100. My accountant registered. Oof. 64% of you did a debit to account receivable and credit sales. The ones who got it right, can anybody tell me why? What's the reasoning behind that answer?
My logic was that if you do a credit sale, you're gonna have like a new account receivable that you're gonna have the right to claim what you
Exactly.
sold. So you have now like an account receivable which goes for debit.
And now you manage more concepts than the credit sales. Very nice. So debit supplier and credit sales account. Well, it's okay. Don't tell me who did it. Debit the supplier means that the now the supplier owes me because he will have a positive balance being a liability. Remember, the nature of accounts tells you that the liability should be in a credit balance. If you debit the supplier, that means that that supplier owes me as a company. That's incorrect. The debit bank account and credit sales. It is a credit sale. You didn't receive the funds, so you shouldn't touch the bank account. And credit the sales account, it's as the previous answer. If you have a credit on an account receivable, that means that you owe somebody. Even if it says account receivable, if you credit account receivable, it means that you owe somebody. The credit account receivable and debit sales account, it was the opposite of the correct answer. Maybe the ones who answered that, you're just mixing the elements. We just explained them. So the next question, from the previous operation where I sold 100 USD to be paid in the future as it was a credit operation, the cost of the operation is $50 to be paid in the future. My accountant registered before answering this question from the previous one. Does anybody has any doubts? Are we okay?
I mean, it's a bit of non-related, but at the same time a bit related. If you were to have an accounts receivable, but it's on the credit, so you owe someone, wouldn't that be mislabeled and you would have to change it to accounts payable?
Exactly.
You cannot have a account receivable that is on credit, correct? You have to change it.
That's the logic. That's the logic. And that's what some accountants got it wrong, because at the end, as a controller, you have to review your financial information, right? The one thing to review your balance sheet is give me your aging of accounts receivable. What that means is that you can notice the how much time you haven't collect an account receivable. You may have by definition in a contract that you need to collect in 30 days, but there are people who doesn't pay or are not willing to pay. Bad business, okay. But how you control that? You start watching that aging from 30 days of longevity start passing to 60 days. What that means is that you can claim that you start your process with your lawyers, but in those agings, sometimes you find negative balances in account receivable. Those are the things that you should analyze, like ask your accountant, what is this? How do you have a negative balance in an account receivable? Please reclassify because I owe somebody. Maybe one of your customers pays more than what he should. You need to reimburse that money, right? You owe that. That is a good example of what can happen in the account receivable. So very nice comment, Marcelo. So from the previous operation, the number 3, I sold 100 to be paid in the future. Okay. The cost of the operation was $50 to be paid in the future. Okay. Ooh. Debit sales and credit vendors. Why debit sales? There are 4 people. Come on. The ones who got it wrong. Somebody tell me. You're not alone. This speaks more about me as a professor than maybe I'm not explaining myself that correctly. Please tell me who got it wrong. Debit sales and credit vendors.
I got it wrong, but I don't know the reasoning behind it.
It's a cost operation. What are the elements of the income statement, Arturo?
Income, cost, and expenses.
Income, cost, and expenses. So, and what is, can you tell me what's the definition of a cost?
No, I can't. Something that I don't know, an expense.
Yeah, it's kind of. The only difference between a cost and an expense is that the cost is related to the sales procedure. Let's see an example. An expense could be a common expense could be an office rent. That expense is not related to the revenue or to your sales procedure. You will have an expense each month to be paid, either if you sell or you don't sell anything, but the costs are related to the sales, meaning that if you need to sell something for $100, the things that you needed in order to sell that's the cost. And this is the concept that we are reviewing in this question, the cost of the operation to be paid in the future. Okay, if it's a cost, it should have a nature of, Arturo?
Credit? No, debit.
Debit, correct. You got the first part right, the second part?
Wrong. I got the credit vendor account, but I thought it was sales. Yeah.
Excellent. Are we okay with that, everybody? Good to go? Perfect. Today I received, this is the intermediate level, though. We have the expert level coming next. It's a little bit trickier because I see at least half of the class is having the correct answers. Okay. And maybe that's why we're reviewing them. The other half, if you didn't get it right, that's the reasoning process that you should do. So today I received a wire transfer for $100 from my customer, and I took 50 to pay the vendor, also via wire transfer. My accountant registered. Okay. Today I received a wire transfer from my customer. And I took 50. Okay, this is the first part. We are missing a second register in that. If we're speaking about the first one, that it's the customer reception of the funds, you should debit the bank account and credit Okay, the answers are for the second part. I missed that, sorry guys. Who can tell me the first part? Today I receive a wire transfer. How we should register that part? Some customers or an account receivable paid me. What's the register?
Bank account, debit.
Debit because you will increase your bank funds, and credit.
The accounts receivable.
Perfect. You cancel out the credit that you gave to him, and I took $50 and paid the vendor, which is the answer that we were trying to look for. Can anybody tells me what's the correct answer?
Bank account and debit vendor.
That's it. You got it. I bought a laptop for my firm in cash, $100. My accountant registered. Yeah, that was tricky also. Oh, well, equity and cost. Okay. Somebody got it wrong. The laptop is not a cost. We just learned the cost definition. It is related to the main activity of the business, and it's related to the sales process. Okay. So obviously a laptop is not part of the selling process. A laptop is a resource for the firm. So it's an asset. It is an asset, okay?
I have
This-
a question.
Yeah.
The payroll for a sales agent, would that be a cost?
If it's variable to the sales, it should be.
By variable, you mean like a commission?
Exactly.
Okay.
But the fixed part shouldn't be. Because at the end, what you're trying to look for, and we will go deeper into that part. Even I have a little question regarding that concept in the next quiz. Not quiz, poll, sorry. The thing is that you want, from an economic perspective, you shouldn't add up expenses to note if your business is good. You want to know first on a economic level, you want to know first how much margin does your product generate. That's the first thing you have to analyze. Imagine if you need somebody to sell and you don't know that you don't incorporate that cost of that selling procedure, your margin of the product could be possibly wrong. And what that means is that what you want to find with that margin is how much you need to sell in order to be profitable. 100 pieces. So if you take out that variable, what if the calculations give you 80 pieces to be sold in order to, you're probably gonna miss, you will have a misleading information. Okay. Perfect. Are we okay until this part, guys? Yes, perfect. Excellent. So can we move on to the expert poll? Expert level? Let's do it. Let's do it. I trust you. Perfect. It shows just 4 questions, guys. 4 questions. Let's give you until 1:55. Let's go. Almost done. Excellent. Perfect. Was it hard?
I thought last was harder.
Okay. Just for your knowledge, I had a trick question in there. Let's see the results. Do you see them? Perfect. Okay. Today is the due date to pay the first rent for $20. Excellent. Okay. Debit bank account, pay expense, debit assets. Oof. The office rent, it's not a resource for the company, guys. It is an expense. Okay, the ones who got it is an expense. Who thought it was a cost? We just talked about it. Remember,
I
the
thought
cost, the costs are related to the sales. The office rent is a fixed expense. Either if you sell or you don't sell, you will have that expense. Another fixed expense could be the payroll. It's a fixed expense. If you don't sell, you need to pay the payroll.
so it's a cost.
No, an expense. If it's related to the selling process, because you need for example, my mug, my usual example of the mug. I sold it for $100, but the mug per se cost to me $50. Maybe as Arturo said with his example, maybe I need to give a commission to a sales representative. I don't know, 10%, but that 10% is part of your cost. It is related to the sales procedure. So office rent, it's an expense. What nature? Can anybody tell me what's the nature of an expense?
Debit.
Excellent. And credit? You also, Samantha, tell me. Credit to what account?
Credit to bank account.
Exactly. I pay the rent with cash. Come on. Well, with bank transfer, with a wire transfer. So today we need to pay the payroll. The payroll is an expense. So debit to the bank account and credit expense. Who can tell me what's the logic in the if I register that in an accounting software, what should happen? What will happen? What will my balance sheet say to me? If I debit the bank $50 and credit the expense.
That you still have something to pay.
That you received money.
At an expense level, you will have an expense with negative sign, which as it is not a balance sheet, Marcelo, your logic it's half correct. At that balance sheet level, it will tell you owe that, but at an income statement level, it's telling you that that's a revenue or a sales. Remember, the income or the sales are credit nature. In the income statement, if you credit an expense, it will tell you that it's an income. And if you debit the bank, it tells you that you increased the bank account with $50. So credit the bank and debit expense, it's the correct answer. The debit cost, as I told you, it was a little bit of a trick. The costs, it's almost the same as an expense, but remember what I told you, the definition. So the correct answer, it's an expense. Our research and development team, this was the trick question. And this is the reason why you at least have to know these basics. Come on, guys. In 1 week, I'm teaching you how to debate to your accountant. So our research and development team has finished a successful development that helped us to sell more than we used to. We spend in this project only the payroll for an amount of $30. Who thinks it got it right? Please give me your reasoning.
I think I got it right. I have credit bank account and debit expense because it says that the only expenditure that we have is the payroll that you would normally have.
Your logic until right now, it is correct, but it's the incorrect answer because I haven't give you a little bit more of detail. But the logic you just used, it's correct.
Teacher, oh, sorry.
Tell me
I
something.
just wanted to ask you if that was a
Alright.
trick question.
Oh yeah, that was the trick one.
I put that debit cost account because it says that it helped them sell more, but I don't know.
Okay, what is a successful development and research and development team? What is a successful development? Why do you use your research and development team?
Improve the product or service.
Perfect. And we're speaking about a development. Probably a development could be a software, for example, or a material that you develop in order to sell. And if that happens, instead of being an expense, it probably will now be part of your resources, right? That's a very common mistake that happens in financial analysis and managerial accounting, in both of them. The accountant started to pay in the payroll, payroll is an expense, yeah. At the end of the year, you conclude a development. Let's talk about a software development. You concluded the software development that took you a whole year to finish it. And when you finish it, let's be even more specific. Let's imagine it's a web page. If you want to navigate in the e-commerce industry or something like that it's very popular right now, with all the advertisement in Instagram and even TikTok, if you have it. Imagine that you develop a web page for a whole year in order to start selling, and you paid a lot of payroll. By the end of the year, do you have an asset or an expense?
An
An
asset.
asset?
It is an asset. And if you classify that as an expense, imagine the profit or the profitability for your company. What would happen?
It would be immense.
And an immense loss, probably. Let's see. I don't know. But that's the thing. That is why it is important for you to develop this kind of knowledge and logic or reasoning. it's even more important than starting reading and analyzing income statements, because imagine you find expenses in negative sign. And those things happen in real world, in the real life. Your accountant will get it wrong sometimes if he's not good enough. But even imagine that in all the industries, you have to manage a million registers. One wrong register, that could happen. Yeah. Something can get wrong. Even as a controller, I'm telling you, because I've been a controller. Your purpose is not to get everything right. You have a concept that it's called materiality. Materiality means that you have all your stakeholders. Well, the stockholders, not the stakeholders. Your stockholders determine that if I invested $1,000 in a company, probably if you get a wrong register of $1, it's not significantly. Don't waste my time for $1. Do you get it? If my company it's valuated for 1,000 and you got anything wrong for $1, you paid a vendor that you shouldn't pay, but just $1. Don't lose my time on $1. That's why we call it materiality. But imagine that it's not just $1. Now you can tell me that if it's $100, please tell me that's significant enough for me in order to take action as a stockholder. So with the concept of materiality, the purpose of the accounting or the accountants is not to get it 100% right. Even the audit procedures, when who knows what it's an audit procedure? Who can tell me?
Like putting the company in review, basically.
And who put it in a review process?
A external, like the people who is asking you for taxes, or just you hire an external accountant to make sure that your internal accountant is doing everything right.
Yes, but who sends that audit procedure? You are correct, but who sent it?
Government.
That?
The government? Yeah, no, the government is for his collection, but try to think why all the companies have audit procedures. Who sends them? There is no law. There is no law until you surpass a certain level of income. There is no law demanding that you audit your company.
And maybe the investors and shareholders.
Investors, that's it. I need to take care of my money. Yes, I trust you. You are even family, but in order to be safe, let's have an external review the things. Okay. And in the audit procedures, the opinion serves for purposes of me as an investor being calm that the company is very well administrated, and the opinion tells you that the procedures are correctly done. There is no significant mistakes on your financial statement. No significant mistakes. No material or materiality mistakes. Okay. That means that probably you will have a mistake of $1 for your $1,000 investment, but you won't have a $100 mistake. Okay. But the thing is that what happens, like the example from the poll, is that sometimes even the auditors get that wrong, because you need to, if you imagine the payroll, the support for the payroll, it's a normal usual support of paying a payroll. Do you know what's the support of paying a payroll? You need to pay the government, you need to pay all the government agencies, and you need to pay the employees. So you have your bank account with the proof of payment and the proof of payment to the government. You have your support now. But then if who can knows if you are paying the research and development department, and when you finish, you should have considered that as an asset. Only you guys, the ones that are managing. Only you. And what should we do by the end of if you have this kind of examples in your real life? What you should do is, when you finish a development, you should try to incorporate it to how do you say property rights? It's intellectual property rights. You should register it as an intellectual property. So now you have your support that it is an asset. Okay. What will happen with that? You will increase your assets. That means that you have more resources, and you will diminish your expenses, which means that your company is more profitable. And that's why companies in the United States invest a lot of amounts, a lot of very big amounts in research and development, in technology. Yeah.
So let's say, as you mentioned, the research and development has been working a year on this project. And the same amount, $30. So that would be, for example, let's say last month, they didn't have the project complete. The $330 for the 11 months that they have been working, that would be an expense. And the moment it turns, they turn the project, how do you turn that into an asset? Does it just, I don't know how to register it?
That's the question that everybody should have, because what happens, imagine apart from what you're asking, what happens if the research and development by the end of the day doesn't work? Should it be an asset?
No, that would be an expense. Well, that's what I think, but my question, I know you understand it. I'll let you go ahead.
And to be an asset, you will need a support. How you support it? Register it as a intellectual property. The amounts of registering intellectual property are very cheap, very cheap. Okay, I'm telling you, like should be around $500 at the most. Okay, but it's very important to have intellectual property in the companies. Okay, and the final question. Until here, we're good with this explanation.
I was good until the moment. So then I understood that it should be a cost, right? If it is considered an asset, the web page, for example, right? The payroll.
Remember, payroll, it's an expense.
It's an expense, but since you're creating an asset,
until you haven't finished the development, that it was the purpose of the department of that area, and the expenses that you're doing, research and development, until you don't finish it, you won't be able to know if it's an expense or an asset. The criteria in order to know that it is an asset is that it will become a resource. You have to analyze, and you have to be able to give proper support to an audit procedure or to your investor to so you can explain him that why that is an asset. This is an example. This question was a clear example of what happened to the Enron case. Remember that I spoke to you about the Enron case? What these clever guys did was to consider expenses as an asset. Very clever, because the company was very profitable and you have a large amount of assets. But at the end of the day, if you consider an asset, it will be subject to review by an audit procedure. And some of the reviews include going to physical visits. They will review that the asset exists. If you have a building as an asset, you can take a look at it. The only thing that there are intangible assets, like intellectual property patent is an asset. Your support is the document, the registered document, and the software. What do you imagine that the software, how we can support that is an asset, and that we have a software?
Seeing it work, maybe.
What?
Watching it at work, like watching it functioning.
Yes, that could be possibly a. I will go. I recommend you to go deeper. If it's a software, you wouldn't have a program code, the source code. What you register as a software in intellectual property is the source code. Okay.
My question was then for a year, 12 months, everything would be considered an expense until it is actually considered an asset. And then
yes,
if it actually is registered as an intellectual property and becomes an asset, then the part that becomes a cost, is it the whole 12 months or is it just in the moment, the last month that it became an asset?
The whole value, not even just payroll. That's an example. What do you need it in order to develop that? Computers, or then the depreciation of the computer should be the part of the value. You need an office rent for the development team. Electricity, gas bills, etc. Everything adds up, and if by the end of the development, the software or the whatever expense that you develop, it's an asset, then you need to include it as all the cost. You should include it as an asset in your balance sheet. Okay. Not only the final part, everything. Okay, until here, got it clear? Now, do you get why it is important that you noted this kind of transactions, that you understood this before analyzing a P&L? Because that could be done in Excel, but come on, you need to analyze. Really analyze. Okay, the last question was, we didn't saw that in any part of the classes until now. How do you get your final business profitability in percentage? Oh, 82 of you got it right, so probably I don't need to answer it, right? What do you think that a cost divided by sales will tell you?
The cost margin.
The cost percentage representation from the sales. The gross margin divided by sales, well, what will give you? What's the answer? The gross margin percentage. The gross margin percentage, it's very, very important, because this is the reason why you need to understand that what is cost and what is an expense, because This gross margin is what we use for further in the course to know what's our break-even point. How many units of units or services you need to sell on a month to break even. What is break even?
You start making a profit.
Exactly.
Like, yeah.
Your profit should be 0. That's why it's break even. You don't either win or lose, but it's the part when you will start earning. Okay. That's a break even. And the net profit, again, sales obviously will give you the net profit margin. That will help you to know how how much profitability you have as a business. The operating margin is also very important, but we will get further into that. Do you know what it's EBITDA? Okay, that's for further part of the course. The important thing is now that
I remember we saw it. Let me remember. Give me 1 second. I think E is for earnings.
yes.
B, I have no idea.
It's earnings before interest,
Oh,
tax, depreciation. The thing is that we will see what it's an income statement with a real income statement, and the operating margin, it's what really tells you if you have positive cash flow. But we will get into that. It's a little bit complicated. We will get into it, but at the end, guys, you're starting to really analyze financial information. I told you this is more important than even going further into valuation of the firm, because you will be able to correct your accountant. Okay. I think that's it for today. Please, I will give you another quiz for the end of to reinforce the knowledge of this week, because I need to know. We are still having people that it's not getting it right. You saw it in the poll. Let's reinforce our knowledge, because if you get this part right, the other things will come very easy. It's just a matter of explaining the formulas and doing an Excel, and that's it. Okay. So thank you very much. Does anybody have any question before we go?
I don't know if I'm mistaken. Do we have a class tomorrow of this?
Yes, yes. We do have a class, but I will focus or target that class more towards Q&As. So this introductory this introductory week, I don't think, unless you tell me that we need to have tomorrow's class, but for further weeks, for sure we will have Q&As. And why is the Q&As? Because I'm giving you also opportunity along the week to review your course material. We won't get that on the first class on Monday. We won't see the course material of the whole week. We will start on Monday, so you can have time to review it. And I will give you additional information on the live sessions, and the Friday will be devoted to Q&A to reinforce all the knowledge of the week and for you to get it right on your quizzes and your homework. As I told you, homeworks are going to be very easy, just to reinforce knowledge, 2 problems maximum. I don't want you to stressed out in the along the week, but it's very important for you to review the course material. Have you seen all the week videos for the week 2? No? They are uploaded. Okay, so that's the dynamic of the next week. Tomorrow, I don't think it's necessary, guys, unless you tell me. I even can devote tomorrow's time for if anybody wants individual help in order to understand what we saw this week. Please tell me, okay? Otherwise, we will see until next Monday. Okay, guys, please email me if you need it so we can see you tomorrow. And that's it for today. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have an excellent day.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye bye.
Mr. I still have the question about how do you pasarlo de un expense into an asset?
Oh,
Like,
okay.
I
Oh,
understand it.
you told me you want to know what's the
Like-
register.
Yes.
Okay. Try to give me your answer. Try to develop it. Let's start at the beginning. What's the beginning of the movement? What did you do? You paid payroll, right?
Yes, from bank
Tell me the
account into
register.
expenses.
Okay, bank expenses. You will have debit, expense, month 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, we finished. What do we need to do in order to pass it from an expense to an asset?
What I do is just credit expense and debit asset, but is it just that simple?
Just that simple.
I thought it would be like something more.
It is a little bit more difficult, but you don't need to know it. Or unless you want to. Why? Because you need to register the patent or the intellectual property. You need to invoice it. You won't have an expense as a credit. You will have an income that overcomes that expense because you need to have an invoice. That invoice will be support of the asset, because you have for each asset you have invoices for all the assets. For a laptop, even for a building, if you buy it, you have your escrituras, you have everything. And you need also for your software to have an invoice, because the thing about the resources of the firm is that possibly they could be sold. As I gave you previous days examples of that okay, I have fixed assets, but the meaning of those assets is to have an economic benefit from them, but they are also subject to be sold, like a used car for the company. Imagine you already use it for 5 years and you want to sell it. If you have your software development by the end of 10 years or whatever time, imagine you don't want to sell it. Imagine if an investor wants to buy your firm. What they will be buying, it's an accounting or a software, a developed software. And here's your invoice. Okay.
Okay. I think I get it now.
Excellent, Arturo.
Thank you. So tomorrow we don't have to log in if we don't have any questions. Okay.
No. Unless you want to, but I think you got that this week's part of learning very right. So
thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye.
You too. Bye bye, Arturo.